Today I'm joined by Bri, the COO at SmartLogic. Bri's path isn't cookie cutter. A former educator who found herself in tech leadership, building systems, teams, and products that actually ship. We covered two big points. First, why educators thrive in tech, how creating lesson plans can become roadmaps, classroom metrics become KPIs. Second, how to communicate cross technical lines, active listening, saying back summaries, and ruthless documentation so a junior developer can pick up a system months after without any guesswork. Listen and you'll leave with one practical plan. The 30-day AI Tiger Mission. Pick one legacy app, define a narrow modernization target, use AI to accelerate codes, documentation, and testing, keep a developer in the loop for architecture and security, and publish the lessons learned back to the team, which nets in faster maintenance, safer releases, and a culture that stays current without burning billable hours. Let's dive in. Hey, Bri, welcome to the show. Do you mind introducing yourself?
Thank you, Brian. Hi, everyone. My name is Bri Bellavati. I am Chief Operating Officer at SmartLogic.
Tell me about your background that led you to SmartLogic.
It's not traditional or conventional in any stretch of the definition. My roots started off in education. I was a high school English teacher in Ocean City, Maryland. From there, as a high school vice principal, moved like life does to Western Maryland and became a dean at a community and technical college. From there, I really started working a lot more with private industry because I was on the workforce side of things, which is like the short-term training. So working a lot with industry, IT, welding, advanced manufacturing, economic development, really kind of working on how can the college meet the needs of the workforce and how we can best prepare them. From there, I got a call out of the blue from a gentleman who owns a custom dev shop. And he goes, "Hey, Bri, I want you to come work for me." And I'm like, "Jason, don't you do something with computers?" And he goes, "Yeah." I was like, again, I was an English teacher and you are a computer guy. Like we were on opposite sides of the school. What could I possibly do for you? And he said, "Well, that's the thing." In a respectful way, I say this. He goes, "It's just really me and the geeks." And he goes, "I've got developers and design, and it's just me leading at the helm. And I want to grow, and I don't have anyone with your kind of skill set." So I'm sitting here going, do I abandon my education career? I was almost finished with my doctorate at that time in education, thinking I was going, college president, deanship, all that jazz. And I was like, all right, let's do it. Now, selfishly, I cut my commute from an hour and a half to 4 minutes. So like, this is worth an experimentation. Let's see what I can do. So for him, I started off in training and development just to kind of get acclimated, really understand what are you building and what the needs, what the clients are, what their needs are. And then from there, helped grow account management, project management. I shifted into biz dev. And that was super fun. I did have a quick pivot after that role. I helped open the first woman-owned, minority-owned clinical laboratory, March 2020. Nobody remembers what that time frame was. And so that was a COVID lab, helped build that company from scratch. And so building systems and processes and structures was my jam, kind of really painting a blank canvas. And that was fun. And then went back to IT leadership. And that's kind of where I am right now. So not traditional at all.
No, not at all. What are some of the key things that you learned from being a teacher, from working in academia, and how does that translate to now working in tech and being able
Mm,
to and it sounds like you really worked your way up in the organization at SmartLogic to kind of fulfill a lot of different steps, but
mm,
are there certain skill set that teachers or people in academia possess that make them more adapt to
mm.
kind of fulfill some of these roles?
Excellent question. And my big statement is yes, your skills are super transferable. So if you're an educator and you're looking like, what else can I do? Tech might be for you 100%. I will say the multitasking as a teacher teaching a sea of children, most definitely that is part of the job. But it's also thinking as an educator when you are thinking about your year, your curriculum, your unit, your chapter, and like, what is it that I want my students to be able to do? And how do you back map? How do you scaffold those learning processes, those steps? Well, that's strategic planning. That's planning a backlog. That's going from, we need the product to do this. How do I start? Where do I start? Those that skill of being able to sequentially think through how do I get from point A to point B, but I know I want to get to Z, most definitely is an educator skill set. And then if you layer in, I mean, my goodness, I wasn't teaching many years ago, but at that time, data driving decision making was kind of newer in the field. Well, everything you do in tech is driven by data and structure and being able to look at metrics to make sure, is it performing? Is it secure? Is it XYZ? And so most definitely, I think there's a lot of skills that educators just possess to teach. And it doesn't even matter what field you're in, but a really easy way to get into it is in project management, product management. Once you really, product management, you're thinking about the customers, the consumer, what's going to make them want to engage. Well, that's the same thing as how do you get 15-year-old boys to want to, quote Shakespeare? It's a tough challenge. So what kind of appeal do you need to make it user friendly and approachable? Similar kinds of concepts, similar transferability.
I think that is such a good thing to call out, right? Because there's a couple of people who are drawn to being educators, and part of that is like the fulfillment, watching
Mm,
you build and grow people. Like
mm,
I think you kind of outlined right there that it doesn't necessarily have to happen in academia for you to
mhm,
continue to have that fulfillment, because you're taking those same transferable skills
mm,
and applying it to an organization or a product. Well, it started as a project and then a product and then an organization. So like it just goes to show that if you are an educator, you don't necessarily need to stay in academia to continue to be an educator, or to continue to
mm.
have that fulfillment, to think of things critically and then like reverse engineer the steps to, okay, I'm here, but I want to be at this point,
Mm.
and executing all the way through.
That's an interesting point, that fulfillment component. So that was it for me. So when the gentleman Jason called me out of the blue, I was like, but I'm in education to make the world a better place. I know it's cliche, but of course, all educators are. And so I really want to make an impact in the work that I do. Doing work that I believe in matters to me. And so he was smart because when I first met with him, he didn't tell me all about the tech that they made it custom EHRs and EMRs for specifically the health and human service field. And he started his story with, let me tell you about who I serve and why I'm building custom solutions. And it's for those who are in like residential or, outpatient centers, helping populations who really need therapy or physical therapy, different kinds of services. And so he told me about the clients and why having a better technology solution is beneficial in that field, and that's so that the therapists or the providers can be spending more time with their patients versus doing the paperwork, the mountain of paperwork and like the notes that they had to do. So he really spoke to me on, look at the good you're going to do if we can build the solution and solve these problems, these tech problems, these workflow problems for the providers, then they can do their mission. Similarly, being in a custom dev shop at SmartLogic, I mean, my goodness, we have a client, Brooks Publishing. They're in the childhood research and development space. And so they have custom assessments to assess childhood development and all sorts of kind of resources to wrap around that. We built a platform that assessment is in. So the getting more kids access to proactive and preventative development lessons and skills is instrumental to developing. And so that feels good. All the way to Ocean Conservancy, we work on one of their applications called CleanSwell. You're out there with aquatic life and making sure the waterways are clean. You're logging that data. They're using that data for advocacy. Like that's feel good work. So you can most definitely get fulfillment in tech, not just from accomplishing a task or making a thing or doing a thing, but also what are the client's missions and visions, and how are you helping them do what they need to do so the world is getting better. There's a lot of fulfillment.
As you were talking through that, I took a note that said started with mission, right?
Mm,
So when you were approached, basically you were approached in the way, here's the mission that we're looking to fulfill. And I think that was the thing that helped with the fulfillment piece. Because I've had a similar, not necessarily being an educator, but like I've been in product and project development. And I won't lie, there have definitely been roles where I'm like, this just isn't fulfilling. Like I
mm,
am just putting out there another piece of marketing material or
mm,
this thing or that thing that I didn't love. I didn't fall in line with. So
hmm
like starting with the mission and making sure that it aligns with what you want to do. Because I think the majority of people want to make a better world, regardless of what they want their impact to be. That may not necessarily be clear to them right now, but I think that most people have that same feeling, is that, yeah, I want to leave it just a little bit better than what I had or how I
Hmm.
had it. So I want to change topics just quickly.
Sure.
And how I know that working with technical people comes with its own inherent set of challenges. From a communication perspective, how do you overcome that?
I think the root of it is listening, being an active listener. And, when I first started off in training and development and then moved to kind of project management, and you are truly that intermediary, that liaison between the client and the devs, and kind of how do I how do I play both sides of that fiddle? And I think it's really in active listening and also asking clarifying questions. I have no shame going, what does that mean? Or, hey, can I tell you what I heard? And I am track. If I'm talking to a staff engineer and they say something extremely technical, and I try to like summarize it in my own words, because my job would then to be making sure I can communicate that to the client or answer their questions or be able to know how to filter their questions to know which part of our team needs to address that. And so if you don't listen and you also don't check for your comprehension, I think there's nothing embarrassing going, okay, I have not a clue what you just said or why that's important or what the impact could be. Can you help talk me through that? And every single developer, designer, anyone in the technical field that I have asked those questions, they go, hey, thanks for asking. Actually, let me try to explain that to you. Or let me explain why that would matter to the client or what you need to be saying from an account management perspective. And so, I mean, it's just being, I think, intentional with your communication of going, what am I here for? And not being superficial, playing the gopher of here's a message, here's a message. But if you really wanted to be, I don't know, meaningful and relevant, then you've got to engage and you've got to make sure you're saying the right thing. And so ask those questions too.
It's funny, right? Like, I've been in so many like large kickoff meetings where there's been so many assumptions made that when I do a lot of things with self-deprecating humor, where it's like, okay, I may be the dumb one in the room, but like, can we take a step back and can you explain to me what you're trying to say here? And it's so common that I am not the only person in the room who doesn't understand, but I'm the only one who will step out of my comfort zone and just ask the obvious question,
Hmm.
even if I do it in kind of like I said, a self-deprecating, humorous way. It gets people to just kind of like, you know what? We overlooked something, or
Hmm.
hey, we didn't talk about that enough, or we didn't get to the root cause of what the problem is here. So it's such an important thing to just kind of take a step back. It may be uncomfortable the first couple of times you ask the question, but when you do that, like, that is such a game changer for a lot of people.
Not only in the verbal, but it's also, I mean, I have yet to find a dev shop that doesn't have a how do you fix the documentation, like how much documentation, the quality documentation, or we thought we wrote enough when we did it the first time. And so I think it's also really important that you take that mindset of do the words on the paper or the doc make sense so that when you put it back on the shelf and you take it back off, take the saran wrap back off, when you're reading those words, will somebody who has no knowledge of what this thing was, will they understand it? So I always like to do that gut check of, okay, if you're a junior developer and you just got onboarded and you're reading this document, does this explain it enough for you to take the next action or to understand the architecture, to understand, the connections and whatnot? And so just having that gut check of my writing cohesively enough. And that's another skill set that the PMs can also help with throughout that process. Honestly, you could use AI to help you. Did I write this? What's the readability of this sucker? And, what needs to be fleshed out some more to help assist to make sure that not just your verbal, but also your written word is clear.
It's funny because I was just watching a video earlier today about communication and thinking about who your audience is. And one
Hmm.
of the tabs that I have open right now, it says Minto Principle. And basically, it's how at MIT they structure visuals to be able to tell a story from
Mm.
like, okay, here's the critical piece of information. Here's the next two answers to the questions you had from the first one, and then here's the next four answers from those two. So it's like this pyramid of communication style. So like I had just taken a note from it because am actively working on something that would require that sort of mindset or structure to effectively communicate beyond my knowledge. Because I think a lot of people get caught up on, well, I understand it. Well,
Exactly.
you're the communicator. You're not the audience. You have to take a step back from where you sit because you understand the problem too intimately. And if
Exactly.
I'm going to talk to someone who doesn't know any of this, how do I communicate to them effectively to get them to a point where they're able to either pick up on what I'm trying to communicate and then move it forward, or whatever the end goal is? So there's a bunch of people out there, and I just stumbled across this series earlier today about how MIT sets people up to do different types of communication, and then these kind of exercises to think about who's the audience, what are you trying to say, make sure that you're starting with like that main principle and then
Mhm.
cascading down without bogging down in too much either detail or data, because that's where you lose people.
Yeah, I think there's also a value in process and systems. And so at SmartLogic, we really pride ourselves on clear process and systems. And it's kind of like, I don't know, when I was 10 years old, if you were going to my closet, it was a cluster. But to me, I knew it was organized. You wanted that red sweater, I know exactly where to find it. Though my mom would walk in, she was like, I can't see any, it's just a mountain. And so as I've gotten older and the type A-ness has come out of me, that value of systems and processes matter. So when we look at our documentation, we look at our project management tooling, we look at, how we're developing the products we're doing and documenting them. It's important that not just the person whose system it is, but that it's systematized across the organization so that anyone can go find that red sweater and they know how to navigate the tools. They know this is where in the documentation this will go. And I think that is a really important thing for longevity, as well as, I mean, let's be honest, tech people come and go. The person who made or whose closet was initially might not be there in 10 years. And so, or that client paused in development, but now they've got more funding. And so now they would come back. Goodness, who remembers that? And so that's where I pride ourselves that we have really good systems and processes and documentation practices that really kind of help transfer that knowledge over time.
I am an ADHDer, so all of my stuff is organized in doom piles. It is the bane of my wife's existence, but I can tell you exactly what is in what pile and be
Yeah.
like, who touched my stuff?
How do you even know?
And trust me, my wife was like, how do you know? I just know it wasn't in my pile.
Right.
And it drives her crazy. Not here nor there. Let's take a step back. Can you give me like a 15,000-foot overview of who SmartLogic is, what it is that you do, and who it is that you're servicing?
Absolutely. So SmartLogic is a custom dev and mobile application shop. So we build custom software. We were founded in 2005 in Baltimore, Maryland, but as the way things are, we are now a fully virtual stateside organization, and we build custom software. So the clients that we serve, given that we do custom, can be in many different verticals. But I would say pretty good fibers in the like Series A, Series B tech startups. It could be B2B, B2C, B2B to C, startups that are either like bringing a new product in or a new service to market and they need that extra bandwidth. We can like help accelerate the product development. We can take, projects off their roadmap and really help complete them to get to their next stage. It could also be for like nonprofits or foundations that launch like one or more programs, kind of like Ocean Conservancy. They've got this product that they need that there's no off the shelf track collecting data application. So we made a custom, we didn't make it, but we're working on their custom solution for them. And so I really think, in terms of the work that we do, we build and support mobile and web applications. We're not a marketing company. We're not a website company. So we're not the WordPresses. We're not the Drupals of the world. We really focus on those custom software toolings.
How has, and I think that this is probably a blanket question for a lot of people in that space, how has AI disrupted or interrupted or changed how you bring new applications to market.
AI is so exciting. So, in the beginning of this year, and my goodness, and looking that seems so long ago, in just early 2025. But I was using like this metaphor of like the tsunami is here. We just need to figure out what kind of board we need. Is it a long board or a short? Like, how do we get on that wave? Because
Mhm.
it's not going away. We can't stop it. We shouldn't be blocking it. And I think it's, really revolutionizing a lot of different things. Internally, as an organization, we kind of approached it. I created an internal Tiger team, and I'll talk about the profession in a hot sec, but like how we have started to dabble and get our toes into it. Started a Tiger team internally of just going like, who's interested, and giving those who are interested to participate some leadway, so some non-billable time to just go explore. And we would meet once a week, and everyone's kind of sharing, this is the cool thing that I did, or I saw, or I learned, or I read, and that was fun. But I was getting a myriad of different things. I was getting like, look at this cool recipe I made, or look at this great graphic I made of a flying monkey, and like, that's fun. Now let's start thinking about it in terms of practice. And so we shifted late spring, early summer to specific Tiger missions where I wanted to see and really kind of dive into the upskilling of our team. So some of our team was given, hey, we have some existing applications. Can you use AI tools to manage and maintain these systems more effectively? And so I'm going to give a shout out to Emma. She's one of our developers on our team. She had this Tiger mission. She had this legacy app with some really old JavaScript in there. And she used some AI tools. We've got a blog, it's going to be out there, where she wrote about it. But she was able to do this really big modernization effort way more quicker, more efficiently, and more effectively, using these AI tools to assist in that process. Some of our other Tiger missions are start thinking, can we build agentic apps, and what does that look like? And so we reached out to some of our key clients and said, hey, we want to do some R&D. Do you have any ideas or any use cases that might be helpful? And so we've got some working to build some agentic use case prototypes of using the client's product in the use case. And so that's been really, really fun. I think in terms of the industry, it's evolving so rapidly. I mean, my goodness, what it's doing now is nothing that it was doing in January. And I can assure you that, or the hallucinations that were in January are not what I'm experiencing now. But the rise of vibe coding, anyone can code. And I think that we've definitely been seeing there's a lot of PR out there, and I think there's a lot of value to vibe coding. I mean, you can spin up a working prototype. I mean, I do it. I make prototypes, using tools like Bolt or Replit or anything like that. But I think it's great to get the concepts to the screen, and I think it's great for validating and getting some feedback from maybe some other potential customers or use cases on, hey, this is what I want to build. What's your feedback? But I think there's some risks in that. Our director of engineering wrote a cool blog about vibe to viable. Like, what does that take? There's a lot of pitfalls if you just rely on it. Like, yes, you can make an app, but is that app going to be safe? Is it going to be secure? Is it going to be scalable? The integrations, is the database set up appropriately? Is it going to be fragile? Is it going to be brittle? If you build this now and add a feature on later, is that going to break this one over here? So there's a lot of that human in the loop. I'm now saying like it's the developers in the loop as well, but like I still think that our engineers are extremely valuable. You will always need them to help guide you and make those truly technical decisions and advice. And that's, I think, where our team can really assist those who have got this great concept. I've done this work, but how do you take it from that to something that's meaningful and viable, so to speak?
Yeah, it's funny because if you do look at the year, I mean, it's October now. Crazy.
Mind blowing.
But how much the tools have evolved over this past year, especially when it just comes to vibe coding.
Mm,
Beginning of the year, I don't think that ChatGPT had anything that allowed you to vibe code. Claude didn't. Really, you were kind of limited to Cursor and
mm,
Bolt or V0 from like a UI perspective, and that was kind of it. And now there's like Bolt just released an integration with the Claude Code
mm.
yesterday, the day before, which I was testing out right before I hopped on this call. I don't know how my code looks, but it's there. I'll check it out after the call. But it's crazy how quickly organizations and systems have leaned into being able to produce tools to vibe code. Because I worked for an organization, it was a startup. I was one of the first few employees of it, and we spent so much time with our dev team to prototype out new features in the platform to drive new business.
Hmm.
And like, it's not that it wasn't sustainable. It was. I mean, and it evolved into being a great platform, but
Costly
it was very costly
on
considering we were
time and
paying.
money, both, right?
Yes, because we were
Hmm.
paying like 50 or 60 grand a month just for dev support services. And if we were to clear out like half of our sprints that month, that made sure that the usability of the system didn't necessarily get upgraded that month, so bugs
Mm.
sat longer than they needed to, just so we could proof out something to get the next big client. So
Hmm.
it allows a lot more freedom when it comes to things like that, where you can prototype something and be like, hey, this is how it's going to work when it's all done. And then you're selling the concept at a
Hmm.
fraction of the time.
For sure. Yeah. There's always trade-offs, and I think as the vibe coding tools get more refined, I'm excited to see how they can assist with like accessibility and bake in those kind of considerations in the vibe coding on the proactive side of things. And but when you're taking that what you vibe coded and you really want to make sure you're creating a sustainable product you want to take to market or put in the app store, there's definitely to me still that very big knowledge gap and that delta where you need that technical expertise to help you make those informed decisions to make sure what you're building can support the goals that you have in mind. But for just getting a concept up, or my goodness, I'll even use it with prospects on a call going, well, I hear your idea. Let me see if I can crank something. Is this what you're thinking? Yeah, or no, I really don't like it looking like that. Or cool, let's change it. I think there's a lot of powerful, positive impact in discovery. In that beginning part where you're really trying to figure out what is the product and what does it need to do and functionality. You could do a lot more of those what ifs without having to spend significant in wireframes or like professionalized, not saying there's not a value in design because there most definitely still is for sure in that sphere as well. But I think it's really helpful in giving the requirements more to the front seat.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I mean, vibe coding is always has his pluses and minuses.
Sure.
But as an organization, what are some of the biggest challenges that SmartLogic faces in the coming year, and what steps
Mm.
have you all taken to overcome that?
I think a big part of it is, I mean, if we all had that crystal ball, right? I mean, that would be amazing. October of 24, did I think that I would be leading our team with Tiger missions and leading the AI, that I would have done an AI boot camp with Purdue University? No, I didn't know that, but it's interesting what a year can do. And so I think we don't know what we don't know in terms of the technology that's going to be changing and evolving. How's Copilot going to be compared to cursors? And I think a big question that I have with my director all the time is, we've got all these tools. One, someone needs to play with them, use them, find the right use cases for them. What are the best practices for them? When do I pull this one out of the closet versus that one and compare and contrast? And by the way, oh, wait, they're changing every day. So what tool you used to do for this? Oh, this one might have a better model for that now. And so it's staying abreast, I think, of those changes is on all of our forefront. And so a challenge that we all need to be doing. So yeah, it's knowing that it's rapidly, rapidly changing and that you need to stay current and relevant in it. So how do you maintain doing the work that you're doing, but also baking enough R&D and practice and learning and then sharing that out? So things that we're doing to mitigate that. I'm going to do another plug out there for anyone who listens to the podcast, The Artificial Intelligence Show by the Marketing Institute. Excellent. It's a weekly podcast. I get nothing from it, but it's a weekly podcast, but they give you like the news. This is what's happened in the news of AI this week. And I didn't think I'd need to listen to it weekly, just check it. No, now I'm like, oh goodness, what happened this week? Oh, there is a new model. I didn't know about that. And so that's just the instant feed of news that I've been using to ingest that information. But also I belong to a networking group called the Bureau of Digital. If you're not a member of that, it's a fantastic support group of other agencies and consultancies in the dev world like ours. And so I've also volunteered to host a monthly AI Did What. It's a AI show and tell. And so it's a drop-in, super informal, but here we are, different practitioners of all different technical abilities, but in the agency consultancy space of development and marketing and things along those lines. And everyone just comes and we're like truly just sharing to show and teach each other because we're all on that wave with our surfboards, trying to make sure that we're all, staying afloat, so to speak, of the knowledge train. So yeah, I think it's just, and then giving your team that space and that support of flexibility, going like, hey, I tried this. It actually took me double as long, but I learned this thing. Great. Now tell that lesson to our colleagues and like help them get ahead of this too. So we can learn from each other. But I think right now we're all kind of learning by doing and sharing that out so we can all get to the place where we can have the right tools, the right use cases, the best practices, but recognizing that those are constantly evolving and iterating and changing as the tech is. That's a lot of
The
answer.
other the
Sorry.
other place that I No, that was great. The other place that I think I usually go to when it comes to knowing what's evolving in an AI space is there are a ton of really good newsletters that are
Mhm.
like daily. None of them are super long reads and usually
Mm-mm.
link out to deeper articles. TLDR is one.
Yes, but to say I had that one too. I love
The
it. It's so
Neuron
good.
is one.
That is good too.
There's two or three others that like I get delivered to the inbox every single day that like when I'm in my workout between sets, I'm like going through my email. Okay, let's scroll through it,
Quick
see what's going
scroll.
on today. Exactly. And if there's ever anything that I want to dive deeper in, I just click on the article and then I read it when I get home. But yeah,
Yeah, that's a great one too.
it is crazy how quickly everything is evolving and how hard it is to stay on top of any of the use cases for any of the tools because you can get so spread thin on just like exploring new
Yeah.
ones.
Well, then you can become like an expert, but you're like an expert for the minute because are you going to be you might be an expert today, but tomorrow might have changed, and or you might need to pivot, or there might be something new and fresh. And I think it's just being open and having that mindset of like, okay, everything we knew about what we used to do is changing, and that means we have to change and evolve as well. But that doesn't mean we stop what we do or everything is we have to jump to a new way. No, like let's just be curious, explore within reason, within constraint, within being pragmatic as well. But I think it's just having that openness and that willingness and that mindset of just how do we evolve with versus because I think if you're resistant, I think that'll be it'll age itself out. But I think it's just more how can you emerge with?
Completely agree. Bri, it's been a pleasure so far today. I give all of
Likewise.
my guests 90 seconds to plug anything that they're passionate about. So in your case, that could be SmartLogic, that could be education, that could be anything. So without further ado, the next 90 seconds are yours.
Well, I just love being invited. So thank you for today. For SmartLogic, we build custom web and mobile applications. So if you have existing applications and you need support, if you have a timeline, a milestone that you need assistance on, give us a call. If you have a new concept, a new product, and you've got the funding and you're ready to go, but you don't have the dev team, give us a call. If you've got a concept and you need a prototype, give us a call. If you have some tech, you need it to be audited, give us a call. So there's many different things that we could be doing to be supporting your needs. We are always open for free consultating, like intro call, share us your problem, what's keeping up at night, and let's see if we're a good fit. And if we're not a good fit, we'll let you know and see if we can network you with someone who we do know, because we do have a pretty broad network. We also have our own podcast called the Elixir Wizards Podcast. So if you want to learn more about the Elixir world, which is a great dev language, definitely check us out. Many different seasons of content, which would be interesting to explore. And then personally, I can't not say anything we could do to support women and diversity in tech, I think is always of importance. Shout out to UMBC. Got to be a guest speaker of their Women in Tech and at the university. But the more that we can be supporting each other and supporting groups who non-traditionally are going to this field, I think that's going to make the tech world a better place, not just our world, but the tech world as well.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Appreciate you.